Yeah. I'm just going to touch up on, obviously, geopolitics now. What's your view at this moment in time of everything that's going on in the world?
Because again, like you think about the benefits of here. Like, so in order to set up a meal plan, it's not just, you're not a one-man band. So you need staffing, access to kitchen, raw materials, digital build, marketing, a space, all these other things. And like and you need also a densely populated area full of people who are willing to spend on their health. I left university and I went to work for this ad agency in London because I wanted to find a job that was halfway between a creative art and a business, which an advertising seemed like that thing.
Yeah.
So there was the company I joined. They made an ad for, there was a very famous ad in the UK. It was a number of famous ads in the UK, which one of them was called Guinness Surfer, which was about. It was an ad about Guinness, the beer, and it was about horses essentially. It was about the art of essentially good things come to those who wait. And I joined this company that made that big television commercial. And then,
were you always health conscious?
I was always thin, but I wasn't health conscious.
Ah, okay.
And sometimes people conflate the two. It's quite easy to be to look a certain way, but the best people have the best relationship with food. They like what they eat. They like what they eat, right? But there are many people who go on diets who don't like what they eat and then give up.
Welcome back to another episode of Evolve and Inspire. Today's guest is Chris Kiernan, an entrepreneur, former nutrition coach, and founder of Practical Meals in Dubai. After leaving a career in marketing, Chris spent 6 years working one-to-one with high-pressure professionals in the UAE, helping them cut through diet confusion and find what he calls the perfect portion size. So this isn't for me. That insight became the foundation of Practical, a meal plan company built around precision, variety, and real life, not restriction. Practical now serves thousands of busy expats, corporate teams, and athletes, for me, across the UAE, delivering fresh meals daily in 5 exact calorie sizes with 150 plus options, accurate macros, and a strong focus on behavior change, not quick fixes. Beyond food, Chris is deeply involved in partnerships with gyms, influencers, and performance brands, and is constantly building new models for collaboration, digital innovation, and scalable nutrition solutions in the Middle East. He's known for his straight-talking, empathetic style, with his obsession with data and his belief that when people get their nutrition right, everything else in life becomes easier. Please welcome Chris Kiernan. Chris, welcome to Evolve and Inspire.
Thank you. That was an incredibly nice intro. I'm very thorough.
You can thank Huzefa for that.
I loved
his research.
It was great.
Take me back to the beginning. You mentioned you grew up in Huddersfield. What were you like as a kid?
Bookish. I was an indoor kid, not an outdoor kid. So I grew up in Yorkshire, where it rains a lot, and and there's a lot of outdoor activities.
But like friendly people as well in Yorkshire.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. I honestly, so as a kid, I liked. I was really into. I still am. I'm really into music.
Okay.
So I'm a good guitar player.
Yeah.
In fact, in another life, I actually had a recording contract, a proper thing for a long time as well. So as a kid, I was interested in many things, and then it kind of, because I was quite bookish, like it developed into a love of like history, politics, music, the arts, but also I was also quite heavily into like science and mathematics.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of ended up doing well at school and all that sort of stuff. So I've always found myself being halfway between a creative person and a sort of and a rigid type A sort of person.
Two very different contrasts.
Yeah, and I kind of feel a little bit like there's a sort of almost like a schizophrenic element to my personality.
Yeah.
But I find that with a lot of entrepreneurs, you do find that like they have multifaceted personalities as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so my growing up was very much a sort of, I would say it was loving but indoorsy and studious.
Did you have siblings? Or do you have
2.
siblings? Yeah.
I'm the eldest though. I'm
you're the eldest.
classic firstborn. Firstborn. All the attention goes on me. Little Lord Fauntleroy, they used to say about me. That's what it was. My other sisters were, different to me. They're a lot closer in age, so they get on well as brother and sister. I'm not a massive difference. I'm 4 years older. But 4 years older is enough, and a different gender. That's enough that I'm not quite the same as those two. They're like the younger ones, and I'm the eldest one.
And then after you went to school and you did well academically, What was your next step? What did you do next? Where were you? Where were you at
So
that particular moment in time?
I spent a long time trying to get a recording contract.
Oh, okay.
And I say a long time, I mean like 2 or 3 years. And then basically gave up on the dream, went to university, and then got a record contract in the first 3 months. So then I finished my first year at university whilst I was recording my first record. Then we went out. I took time away from university, did, I think it was 2 or 3 years away, putting out albums, touring, etc. And then I realised that heavy metal wasn't going to pay bills. At some point, I went back to university, finished, and then went into advertising.
What did you study at university?
History and politics.
Oh, okay.
So nothing to do with food.
Nothing to do with or advertising and marketing?
No, nothing to do. But it's one of those. As with all these humanities degrees, like it's very rare that someone ends up being a historian, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those ones. It doesn't really work that way.
Yeah.
It did teach me how to argue. It taught me how to reason properly. Like that's the one thing it did teach me, as well as like other social skills. But I graduated late. I mean, I think I graduated when I was 24, like because I'd spent time doing the music thing as well. So though I can't tell, I'm not the best historian in the world. I am good at dissecting complicated pieces of information and then like formulating a narrative out of them, which helps for building a business, for marketing, and for like winning an argument with your wife.
There's not many you will win though.
Or knowing when to make a hasty retreat.
What made you go into history and politics at that time? Because you're starting a music career per se, and you're doing history and politics. They're quite a bit different, aren't they?
Yeah, they are different. I've always been one of those people. This is going to sound quite arrogant, actually, I suppose, but I've always been quite good at a lot of things. Which I sometimes actually found to be a bit of not a problem, but like I always think about the sort of David Beckham school, like which is like he was very, very good at that thing. Sometimes I sometimes meet people who are very, very skilled in one discipline, and it brings them quite a lot of reassurance and comfort. Whereas I've always had, I still have, 55 different voices saying, "Why don't you try doing this and that," including in my own head. So history and the politics came because I was interested in it. Like even if now you've got on my phone and looked at my browsing behavior. I guess you would.
I'd rather not.
You'd rather not. And so you'll find say if you just think about a YouTube feed, for example, I'm not looking at recipes. Honestly, in my spare time, I'm looking at what's going on with the world, Donald Trump, geopolitics, as well as heavy metal. So I kind of have 3 different sides to me. I've got the sort of the bookish, academic, geopolitical type person. I've also, which is one of the reasons why I'm here, actually. It's so interesting being here. As well as there's a nutritional aspect, which is my sort of, which is something I'm sure you'll ask how we got into that. And there's music as well. And I like being a person is more than just one thing.
I'm just going to touch up on, obviously, geopolitics now. What's your view at this moment in time of everything that's going on in the world?
Did you see any of the speeches from Davos last week or 2 weeks ago? So there was an interesting speech by Mark Carney, who's now the Premier of Canada, essentially saying that there is a new world order, and also the old world order was also fake and not actually true. So he was saying that we called it a useful fiction. There are powerful countries in this world that for the last 40, 50 years, since Second World War, have had this sort of this conversation around the rules-based order, but the global South has been screaming that doesn't seem to apply to us. And it was really interesting because this was the first time one of the G7 countries had stood up and said, "I'm going to be honest, this was never equal, and I'm just going to call it what it is." So what's interesting about geopolitics right now is that the mask is kind of coming off. That I think, in my opinion, it's that era of might is right, as in I have the biggest military, I have the biggest resources, so therefore I can kind of do what I want, which I think, incidentally, is kind of what always basically happened. But people dressed it up with other things. And I was like, that's just the way it is. So it's going to be interesting to see how the world operates, and it's very interesting to be in this part of the world to see how the Middle East positions itself vis-a-vis the big players, which essentially are Russia, China, US, partially Russia, and the Europe, if it gets its act together.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Do you think we're close to World War III?
No, I don't think we're close to World War III. No, I don't.
Why do you think that?
I think it's easy to catastrophize that we're really close to World War III. I think, by the way, I'm not professing I'm an expert on this. And I'm also inherently an optimist. I think to run a business and to have children is to kind of intimate that you are essentially optimistic about the future of the world. I'm still a big fan of that Steven Pinker sort of feeling of like the arc bends towards justice of history, but you just have to kind of work really hard at it. There are a series of institutions and checks and balances that are still there. The fact that we're talking about this, but we're talking about it at Davos, which is, of course, an institution in itself, means that I think World War III would happen with a series of quite catastrophic mistakes and miscalculations. That said, I don't know. But I don't go to bed at night thinking we're going to wake up and see World War III. I do go to bed at night thinking, I wonder what crazy news will have come out of the US. I think a lot of people do. But I don't believe so. Though I also profess I'm not a scholar of the global. I'm just an observer. But I do feel overall I feel optimistic. I also feel very lucky to live here. At this time. So I moved here in 2016. So I moved here just after the Brexit referendum in the UK.
Oh.
And I remember that because I was in I voted Remain, by the way, to be clear.
Same.
So at that point I was working for Mars Food, and we were, it's an international company obviously. So I was in Barcelona at the time, and I remember I flew back to see my family and to vote, and it was so interesting because in my sort of metropolitan, university corporate footsie type business, well actually it's a private company, that it wasn't really going to be a thing, but it obviously was a thing. And what's been interesting coming here is seeing how various geopolitical events have raised the status of this region as a power player massively. I mean, you just look at, like, for example, yourself, you came over 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that's because there's been a series of things going on externally and in your own life, which have brought you to the point where you think, this is a good place.
Yeah.
And that's economics, it's safety, it's standards across the board, and it's also standards relative to everywhere else.
Yeah.
I think we're in one of the smartest places geographically to be right now.
Why would you say that?
Because all the right ingredients are here. So you've got an investment-friendly country. You've got a culture of tolerance, but also a culture of adherence to the law and the rules. There's a general level of still people here are, for the 99th percentile, everyone is here is working as well. And so we're in an environment where money's coming in, business is being done internally, business is coming in from outside now because other areas are seen as being less reliable. And I just think about my own business and I see how busy the roads are. And this is the place where things are happening. And it's also the place where there's a spirit of, there's a reason why you and I have moved, and though the reasons will be different, I think we share a commonality, which is a belief that there's more possible.
100%.
And I believe that I can make it happen fast. And I can do it. I have agency. If I go back to the UK, and I love my friends in the UK, I love my family in the UK, and I love the UK, right? Lovely. Caveat.
Yeah.
But if I want to make something happen, and I move back to Yorkshire, it isn't going to happen. Or it's going to be harder.
I think the biggest difference when it comes to business is that there's a difference of money's leaving the UK, money's coming into the UAE.
Agreed.
So because you're doing business in the UAE, you're coming to a place where the money is. Whereas if you're trying to do business in the UK, money's leaving the UK.
Money's
and that makes it difficult.
And also people who make money are leaving the UK.
Yeah.
Like, so that's, again, I'm interested, the whole like low tax versus high tax. I've got mixed opinions on all of it, but there just is a reality that like, there's a reason why I'm a smart guy and I've made a business and I've chosen to make my business in the UAE and I haven't chosen to make it in the UK.
I know we're going to go on to your business, but My question is, how different do you think your business would be if it was in the UK compared to how it is here?
I'm not sure. Well, I don't think it would exist, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Because again, like you think about the benefits of here. Like, so in order to set up a meal plan, it's not just, you're not a one-man band. So you need staffing, access to kitchen, raw materials, digital build, marketing, a space, all these other things. And and you need also a densely populated area full of people who are willing to spend on their health.
Yeah. I think generally and the reason why you're in a perfect market is because I think the UAE people pay for convenience.
They would,
people
yeah, 'cause they're
see
busy.
value in convenience.
Absolutely.
And that's why you're in a perfect market. But I think in the UK, number of people that do that is very few and far between. And
Yeah.
purely because there's too much of a squeeze as well. So people don't have that excess money.
Precisely.
I'm just going to go a couple of steps back.
Sure, man.
Tell us, so you left university. You moved over to the UAE.
I left university and I went to work for this ad agency in London because I wanted to find a job that was halfway between a creative art and a business, which an advertising seemed like that thing.
Yeah.
So there was the company I joined. They made an ad for. There was a very famous ad in the UK. It was a number of famous ads in the UK, which one of them was called Guinness Surfer, which is about. It was an ad about Guinness, the beer, and it was about horses essentially. It was about the art of essentially good things come to those who wait. And I joined this company that made that big television commercial, but they also made BT. It's good to talk. They also made the Mr. T ads for Snickers. And they also made the Gary Lineker ads for Walkers.
Yeah.
And that was what I got put onto. So that was my first foray into food. I wasn't interested in food. So I was 26, 27, and they said, you're a graduate of this company. We would like you to become the junior person on the PepsiCo account. I was like, oh, Pepsi? They're like, no, PepsiCo owns Lay's, which is Walkers is the name for Lay's in the UK.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I going to be doing? They're like, you're going to look after Gary Lineker. That's your job. And so from there, that meant basically my food journey started there. So I had no background in it at that point, none. And then
were you always health conscious?
I was always thin, but I wasn't health conscious.
Ah, okay.
And sometimes people conflate the two.
Yeah,
It's quite easy to be to look a certain way, but so I kind of just got away with it. I was kind of young. My mum's got good genetics for that sort of stuff. So not really, but I was also, because I was studious though, and I like to I knew about it, and I tried, but equally you have all the hedonistic pleasures of London and the pressure that comes along with that as well. And essentially what happened was I got promoted across. So I went from PepsiCo into Mars, then started doing some work with Google, then did some more work with Mars, and ended up looking after the UK, then looking after for Mars Europe, and then came out here because I said to my wife essentially, I don't think I want to do this forever, even though I'm good at it. And it's that whole thing about being good at something, but you having other competing voices.
And it's not your hobby, and you can be good at something, but you don't enjoy it as much.
What am I doing with my life? And we thought it was a strategic decision to move before we had children, to come out, and I took a job here to make more money. Was she
on board from the off?
Yeah, so me and my wife, we met at school. We met at high school.
Oh, okay.
At Homefirth High School. That's somewhat. So we met. So we've been together forever. I was like the least rock and roll guy in a band. I had a long-term partner. Didn't drink very much. Yeah. And so so she came out too, and I ended up running the marketing for KFC out here. And then I was like, I'm going to do 2 years, make money, and then I'm going to figure my life out. Anyway, I lasted about 11 months. When you're done with something, and I was done, and I was about 3,000 miles away from home, and I remember only in hindsight after working on that job, I found the job really challenging, and now I realize that I was in my 30s. I come over, didn't speak Arabic, didn't have any knowledge of what the GCC was. I was looking after KFC in 11 markets, and they were talking about adverts that ran in Morocco versus how things are consumed in Egypt. And different, and I was just way above my cultural pay grade. I understood how to craft communications, how to put an advert on TV or on Google. It doesn't matter. But what I didn't understand was the culture of the region at all. How to properly do business here, because I was the most Western person you would ever meet.
Yeah.
And so it took me a long time to come to the realization that I wasn't actually fully equipped to handle that role. And I think if I did it now, I'd probably quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I also was quite faintly aware of the fact that like I didn't want to make my mark on the world selling chocolate bars and fried chicken. As good as those brands are, that wasn't really what I wanted to do. And so I took a break when I was in my mid-30s and spent a year doing nothing.
So you were here for a year.
So I was here for 2 years. Yeah, I was here for a year and said to my wife, I can't do this anymore. And she was like, it's fine, relax. I was like, great, okay, nice one. Because she had a stable job. Big up Gems, my wife's employer. And she's like, just figure out what you want to do. So I spent basically 2 years essentially just doing CrossFit. Doing CrossFit, I got a PT qualification. I'd already done loads of nutrition qualifications whilst doing my career, because you have to get to a certain level of seniority. And essentially I started working with people on their nutrition as a sort of, because I knew I'd learned a lot about nutrition. Basically, just so you understand, my job essentially was to make, you ever see those things like terms and conditions apply on TV ads and on radio ads? One of the main jobs that we had was to make sure that was essentially to either create products or to make claims that would be defensible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have to learn a lot about nutrition to do that. You have to and with Mars, you have to have qualifications to do that. So I'd kind of, throughout that period, I'd done like eight years then. I'd done qualification and qualification. And then, did a year and a half study as well. And then ended up essentially, I wasn't sure what to do. I ended up coaching people, but it just came from a conversation like this. You might be like, hey, I'm doing this business, I'm doing my podcast, but I really want to, Chris, you know about food, don't you? And I'd be like, actually, I do know about food. But more than I know about food, what I know about is being busy and being stressed. That's what I know a lot about, because I spent a year, I had a career being busy and stressed in food. And I know and I'm also from the dark side. I know the conversations that I had inside these big companies about how to manipulate or use the fact that people were tired to sell more product. And I also had the nous to know what we needed to put in our products in order to get them to have them as good, to say that they were healthy. So for example, my department came up with the Snickers protein bars.
Yeah.
Now that's really a Snickers bar.
Yeah,
but it's marketed as a health product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And the reason that's attractive to people is because they want a quick fix and because they're tired. And so what happened essentially was that I found that I'm pretty good at talking to people about what's the word?
What they need.
What they need and what they struggle with.
Pain points.
Pain points, and especially in this region and especially with expats who come out to this region, I think there's still a pressure to kind of be on it, like hustle, and like present a what's the word? Like a positive face. But for all of the good here, and there's loads, it's still a tough place to be. There's less safety net. There's no family. Like income can go up, income can go down.
Yeah. That's why it's when you mentioned about you leaving your job after 11 months, my immediate thing was, okay, what did you do next? How did you survive? Because
my wife,
yeah.
I couldn't. So yeah, kudos to my wife. Thank you, Ellen. And we had a grown-up conversation about it. So this is interesting. And honestly, one of the reasons why I stopped coaching people was because I realized I didn't actually have a fundamental answer. I knew how to help people organize their lives. Essentially, that's what I ended up doing. I set this business called Designed for Life Nutrition. Yeah. And what I would do is I would essentially build nutrition plans around someone's life, the real life, not the life they, what you have when you're stressed. But what I realized fundamentally underneath it was that I didn't actually have an answer to the fundamental problem. And by the way, I still don't.
Yeah.
Because the answer is, what do you do when you're working a 100-hour week and your boss is giving you pressure and you know that at any moment they could let you go, and you're trying to build a life, and if you have dependents and you're trying to pay your mortgage or your rent, and there's a deadline coming up, you should go to the gym, but you don't know how to fit it in, and you also don't know how to, and you're ordering Talabat or you're running to the shop, and everything feels out of control. And I understood how to structure someone's day around trying to make that better, but fundamentally, there are times in your life where it's basically impossible to balance every single thing. And And I didn't, in order to escape my pain, I was lucky enough that I had to lean on my partner, and I just stopped. And then I pivoted and I did something else. That's privilege.
Yeah,
right?
Privilege, yeah.
And I didn't, so I'm not quite sure even now how I would navigate old Chris to this new path without some sort of safety net.
Yeah,
Makes sense?
yeah.
And that's just again, like I'm sure you've met many coaches in your life, and they're always quick to come. Very rare for you to meet a coach that admits they don't know something.
Yeah.
Like as in fundamentally, I don't have the answer. And I think that comes back to the history thing and the politics thing. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like if you meet someone, you meet one of your friends who's really stressed at work, the reality is they might get fired.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you, there are periods in your life where you have to make a call. Only some, like you've got, young kid, right?
Yeah.
There are certain times where you have to, there's only certain, people talk about prioritizing. That's great, but if that's an order, so the priority has to be in an order. You can't prioritize 9 things at the top.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I think, you got children as well. I've got a young child, and I think that's when you realize where your priorities shift, because it's not about you anymore.
100%. And I guess that's that classic thing about the dad bod.
Yeah.
And there's a thing about like, do you want a dad bod, or like the best part? You hear loads of things about dad bods, like, like it's unattractive, versus, or actually what it signals is good priorities.
Yeah.
Because essentially what a dad bod essentially means is someone that's, what it means widely, that I'm not saying it exactly means this, but essentially it's like, it's a physique where the aesthetic of the physique is not the primary motivation for the person. The primary motivation, presumably if they're a dad type, is to look after, provide for, and have good familial relations with their family.
Yeah.
And if that means sharing a slice of pizza with their wife versus spending 45 minutes on an elliptical, then so be it. It's very interesting.
So glad you said this. I can show my wife this now from a nutrition coach as well.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And again, it all depends on what sort of coach you want to be. And like, there are many people in this world. People need different messages at different times in their life. Like I say this. How old are you, by the way?
Me, 31.
You're 31, so I'm 41, right?
Yeah.
But if I give the dad bod message to a 23-year-old aspiring influencer, I'm not the right coach.
Yeah.
But I might be the right coach, but I might be at the wrong period. But this is my worldview and my experience, and it's what I can speak to the most. And I think you have to spend your time being authentically you.
Yeah.
And I realized that was where I spent the most time. Essentially, what I realized was that every single person I've met, including myself, every day feels guilty at least once a day about what they eat, and generally a bit bored, but mostly just want, and it doesn't have to be like soul crushingly. Usually it's like, oh, I shouldn't have had that. Oh, go on, right?
Yeah.
That. What I realized, and people say, no, I shouldn't, or I really should do this, or I really should do that. And when you start talking to them, usually they then say, but I can't because I'm tired and stressed. And I was like, I can't really sort out the tiredness and the stress, to be honest.
It's
really.
a mindset, innit?
Yeah, but what I can sort out is I can help you with the guilt bit.
Yeah.
Because the guilt's the most pernicious bit. And the guilt's the thing that, the reason a lot of people I've met are in the state that they're at is less what they have, or it's less, the reason they have what they have is because of the way they feel. So if you can address the way that someone feels about their behavior, it's okay to order a Papa John's if you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
And I learned this because in the period of coaching, I started coaching by just regular people, friends. Yeah. Then I started coaching people at gyms. Then I started coaching the coaches at the gyms. Then the gyms would take me on. And then I started working with like athletes and people. I trained a guy, I worked with a guy who won a gold at the Olympics. Oh. You realize everyone's the same.
Yeah.
Someone who won the CrossFit Games, same. It's really interesting. Like, I think I had there's an unsaid, I think, assumption that, like you said before about athletes.
That
they're really dialed in. They're not. They're dialed in in one specific way. No one has it all. That has everything completely dialed in. And many athletes famously have disordered difficulty with eating. We also you've seen how Michael Jordan, what he looks like now versus what he did before. And you hear stories about remember the 2012 Olympic Village in the UK? Stories about the amount of cigarettes. And everyone's got a vice.
It's like you look at footballers, isn't it? And you're like, yeah,
100%,
smoking cigarettes and that, and you're
exactly. There are some people, it's interesting with footballers, because I'm not a big football guy,
Yeah.
but there's a classic thing of seeing what Ronaldo's like now versus Rooney.
oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah, that is a classic, yeah.
Right, but Ronaldo, he's like one of the most successful people in the world.
He's,
right?
he's actually an anomaly.
He's an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
And he's a machine. And by the way, even now, he's a machine, right? But who knows what's going to happen to Ronaldo in 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20. He might be like that forever.
Yeah,
And by the way, even if he is like that forever, none of us know Ronaldo. We don't
Yeah.
know what goes on behind closed
Yeah,
doors.
yeah.
We don't know how he actually feels. Like, what is the mental toll from being essentially the archetype of discipline? That takes it. That's a. Like I always say that with bodybuilders. What do they say about bodybuilders sometimes? Big muscle, small life.
Yeah. You know what? Like, I've got a friend of mine, and very close, and I've known him for 7 years.
Right.
I've seen him for the last 7 years eat lunch at his desk, chicken and rice, every single day with maybe like a slight difference in terms of the...
Spice or sauce.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
it.
yeah. Spice or sauce. But I know for a fact that I completely admire his discipline and his resilience and everything that he does. I could never do that. But for me, my viewpoint of life's too short. I'm not going to sit there eating chicken and rice every day. Like,
Precisely.
yeah.
And
But it's each their own. Some people can do it and some people can't do it.
Precisely. And one of the arts of being a coach, or around the meal plan,
Yeah.
is that also a lot of people don't know what they want. So you might speak to someone who, say you meet someone and you get into a very, very top line conversation real quick. They might describe what they want as a bit like they might want the outcome that he's got. I presume I presume he looks good, this guy.
Yeah.
They might want that, or they might say, like, it happens to a lot of people. They say, like, I want to get this result, or I want to jump on a meal plan, and it needs to be ta ta ta. I want it to be chicken rice da 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 da. But if you just say, okay, like, I'm just going to stop talking to you now like a nutritionist. I'm going to start talking to you like a friend.
Yeah.
And we start talking about other things, like what do they do at 4 p.m. Like, what do they do when they're tired? How's their relationships? You can get that conversation into a far more deep place, and you realize. What do I say? Like, you have to be careful of building yourself a prison.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
for that guy to get the result, he has to do the thing.
He has to put, and what is he sacrificing for that thing?
And exactly. So well done, you've got the result, and that might be enough for him. I don't know him.
Yeah,
But I can tell you this: I've worked with just over 1,000 people as a coach.
Yeah.
I've never met one person, including people who've got pro bodybuilder cards,
Yeah.
and performance athletes, who's purely happy with that life.
Yeah.
But they still might make the choice. But if you actually dig underneath it, they're aware of there's certain things
What they've given up to do that.
It's very rare to meet that person. Very rare. Yeah.
When was Practical born?
So honestly, the Practical was actually born like officially in 2020. We started in 2023. Trade license 2022.
Yeah.
But the idea had kind of been bubbling up because I had a very specific methodology of coaching. And I developed that because I'm good at maths and I'm good at reasoning and I'm fairly good at listening as well. And I ended up with my own, when I was being a nutrition coach to people, I didn't get anything online. So basically the gist was I'd meet you, we'd figure out what calories you needed. I'm a big calories in, calories out guy. Great. But then I'd figure out what does it look like. I called myself I'm almost like a personal assistant for food. And one of my big insights was, essentially my biggest insight was that people are going to have whatever food they want because we're emotional creatures. But if you can control the portion, then you're in business. So let me describe it like this, I suppose. I'm gonna draw like a pyramid of health. Right?
Okay,
Because health means a lot of things to a lot of people.
Yep.
Imagine my pyramid. The bottom like half of the pyramid, the whole bloody bottom, the base, just says for now love, right? And what that means is that if I'm thinking of people who are really, really the best people have the best relationship with food, they like what they eat. They like what they eat, right? But there are many people who go on diets who don't like what they eat and then give up, right? And when they give up, what they do is they then go back to the foods that they actually like, they love, right? But the next step up, calories. They get the portion wrong. For example, my father-in-law doesn't have a six-pack, should we say.
Yeah.
But he loves pizzas and pie. Cool. But he loves his food,
Yeah.
But the portions are way out of whack. The calorie load's too high. The quantity is wrong. So what's interesting is if I meet someone who enjoys what they eat and they get the quantity right, those people are better than 99.9% of people. Just that. Because they're not stressed about what they eat and they know the size.
Yeah.
If you actually think about that, that's all you need to do. Now, the internet is full of noise.
Yeah.
It's like, what about your protein, your carbs, and your fats, your macros? What about your micronutrition? What about your salts? What about your hydration? What about the timing of your food? What about all these things, right? I'm like, let's just break it down though. Do you enjoy what you eat? And is the portion right? And that's what Practical is. And that insight led me to be a good coach. And so basically what happened was Practical was born because I ended up putting my clients, some of them, the busy ones, on meal plans. And I said, hey, my client really likes these 50 things. I'd like them all to be one size, exactly the same. I'd like this client, say this woman, she's 55 kilos. I want her portions, her perfect portion size that makes her feel, she metabolizes it okay. She doesn't feel guilty. She doesn't feel starving. But I'd like everything on the meal plan to be 400 calories, please. Everything. And they're like, we don't do that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay, could you try? And they're like, no. Okay, great. But this client here, he's a man. He's 112 kilos and he's a bodybuilder. He wants the same food as her, but he wants his food to be 700 calories. So they're like, we're not going to do that for you. I was like, I'm going to make my own then. So what we do is Practical was born with this idea. Everything you want in your perfect portion size. And if you get that right, it means you never feel bored and you never feel guilty because you get everything you want and it's in the right size. So on Practical, that's why we do 150 things a day, fresh, and we make every single one of them, which is crazy, in 5 sizes. So, and let me just say that again, because no other company in the world does it.
Yeah.
So we make every single meal, every single day, in 5 sizes, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 calories. So, and for context, think about any restaurant you've ever been to. They don't do sizes.
No.
But let's think about McDonald's. They do sizes, but they do small, medium, large. But if you think about a meal from McDonald's, you don't get small. The fries change and the drink changes. But the burger stays the same. On ours, everything changes. We even change the thicknesses of the patty. So we are true to the idea of if you have food that is your perfect size, your Goldilocks size, you can eat it. I don't mind if it's a biryani, a high-protein salad bowl. I don't mind if it's pancakes. Doesn't matter. But as long as you have it, and when you finish, you go, that was my perfect size, and you can move on. And essentially, that's kind of what the idea of Practical, and I had to make Practical because no one else did it.
How hard is it for people to go down to the perfect portion size?
Well, ironically, they don't have... So a lot of the time, people don't have to go down to their perfect portion size. So there's an assumption in there that people are eating way too much, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, people aren't eating enough.
Oh, okay.
A lot of females, especially. Like classically, you must have female people in your orbit, and you've seen them, and you're like, is that all you're going to have?
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
It's quite a male perspective.
To be honest, and now this is a bit of a confession, I'm not a big eater.
Right.
But I'm a bad when it comes to like what I eat and what I junk.
Exactly.
I'm bad like when it comes to that. But like if you sit me down, you're probably saying like, is that all you're gonna eat? And I'm just like, yeah, that's me. That's it.
And it's interesting, and it gets into extreme levels of complexity. So like again, I'm not going to talk about you, but I would talk about. Let's pretend there's a facsimile of you sat there.
Yeah.
And I'd say, right, you know that you're probably not eating large portions, but you know what you're eating doesn't have a lot of nutrition in it.
Yeah.
Now, but remember, that's not my game. I'm the portion size guy.
Yeah.
So I don't think of let's just pretend you have KFC for now, right? I'm not going to whinge to you that it's got the wrong balance of hydrogenated fats.
Yeah.
I care that it's the calorie density of the food is super high.
Yeah.
So you have 2 wings, couple of fries and sauce, and it's 1,300 calories, for example. For example, I mentioned Papa John's before.
Yeah.
Like a standard margarita from Papa John's at the regular size is like nearly 3,000 calories.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And
you're bringing them down to like 400, 500?
Yeah, but the thing is, with people, it depends on the person. But generally what happens is, what I would say is, you generally would have a size that actually suit... You're that sort of person that basically, that person is the sort of person that doesn't eat a lot and then eats a large amount. right? As in, like, so I don't mean in terms of volume. I mean in terms of like, you don't eat a lot. You're not a big eater. Like, I guess you could. Can you go for a few hours without eating anything?
Oh yeah. When I'm here, I will not have breakfast. So like today, I've had breakfast. Probably not going to eat anything for lunch, and I'll eat in the evening.
Right, and you eat in the
All
evening.
I need is my vape, snooze, and my drink.
Wicked.
That's all I need.
So
I drink my calories.
So my job is to make the food that you like.
Yeah.
In the calorie load that suits you. So you're a guy that at the moment has one meal a day, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, but you're a guy. You're in your 30s. You need a lot of calories to survive.
Yeah.
So you probably, if you're just going to eat once a day, you probably still need 2,500 calories.
Yeah.
So I'm going to find you. It's amazing what you can have for 2,500 calories, right? So if you came on my meal plan, I'd say we put you on the biggest size meal, but we probably end up putting 2 meals together.
Yeah.
And I'd say, do what you do.
Yeah.
It's cool because I don't care about the timing of your meals.
Yeah.
I don't care about what you eat. I care about, do you love it? So it sounds to me like you're that guy. You love the food. You like the food you have.
Yeah.
But the portion size isn't right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's loads of other things, but let's solve that one first.
My biggest issue is I snack too much.
Snacking.
I snack too much.
Do you?
Yeah.
Great.
Like,
and that's again. Then we just start to look at your lifestyle. So on Practical, what we do is we ask different questions to other meal plans. Other meal plans, any meal plan, they just want you to pay.
See, I was on your website yesterday.
And asking you questions.
And you're asking me questions. I quite enjoyed it, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's like because we ask this question that no other plan does, which is, what do you usually do?
Yeah.
Because every other plan basically goes, we're more like a delicatessen than a supermarket.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, what people want to do generally is they go to the website and go, I want the muscle gain plan, like off the shelf. That plan isn't going to get you the muscle gain because the company it's not designed for you.
Yeah.
So we're a delicatessen. So we say, let's pick let's make it bespoke for you.
Yeah.
So we ask this question and it actually slows down our conversion rate because it asks more friction.
Yeah.
But I say, what do you normally do? So you might say, as another example, let's pretend it's not you. Let's say they go, I have 3 meals a day. Cool, okay. And I'll say, how many meals do you want from us?
Yeah.
Because some people don't want meals from us.
Yeah.
Like, so some people don't want all their meals from Practical. You know?
Yeah, they
so
might
for
have
you.
something.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yours will be like, well, how many snacks do you have a day, do you think?
I don't know, man. I'm bad with crisps. And
Crisps.
you know what?
Hey,
the thing with crisps,
Gary
I
Lineker.
have to get Walkers as well. Yeah,
Hey,
that's the thing.
excellent,
Like,
man.
that's one thing I'm not like. I will pay extra in the UAE especially, but I'll get Walkers.
Park and shop.
Yeah,
Crisps.
Park and Shop. Yeah, I was
Classic.
there last night. Park and Shop, man. Classic.
I know
Yeah.
it. But this is the reason why a meal plan run by a smart nutrition coach is useful. Because
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that you want Walkers. I already know where you would get them from.
Yeah.
And because I also understand that means you have certain tastes.
Yeah.
You don't mind salt in your food.
Salt and vinegar.
Right?
Yeah.
So having them again, Practical is built from a nutrition. It's actually built from a real person perspective, being listened to by someone who understands food, but also understands the reality of just how stressed and busy we all get, with no judgment.
How did you grow Practical? Like, obviously, it's a big operation.
It is a big operation. It's 35 of us now in the operation. Yeah.
Oh wow! And you've done
600
that in less than in just over 2 years.
Yeah, and we do about 600 deliveries a day at the moment.
Oh wow! How did you market that? Was it just purely your marketing, or what was it?
It was my network. Yeah, so you coach, you spend long enough in the region and meet enough people, and people had said to me for a long time, they're like, why don't you do this? And eventually, I was like, actually, I'm going to do it. And then luckily, I had a bank of people that were interested in it, and I had a couple of like key allies and partners in terms of institutions that would help me as well. And it grew really fast. Like we got to 300 deliveries in 4 months.
Where do you see your growth now next? How do you go to that next level?
So next level comes, our marketing isn't particularly sophisticated. So we need to sort it out.
Yeah.
One, because there is a humongous market for this in the UAE.
See, it's interesting because you're saying that because not long ago, my business partner came in. We're always talking about business ideas and things like that. And one of the things I mentioned was, you must have seen Simmer.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, there's probably a market for Simmer here because it's food that is delivered, it's convenience, and then I came across you.
And there is a market.
And obviously yours is a bit more bespoke.
A bit, yeah. But there is a market for it. There's a market for all these things. A rising tide, like That's that myopic view of business where like, you know, like I lose clients to this business gives me clients.
Yeah.
I look out the window, like I see X million people, and X million people generally, if you get in a conversation with any of them, and I mean, I reckon 99% more, they're having a hard time with food.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Yeah.
And so we can help in that way. And in terms of growth, there's like 3 different areas I think where growth are, which is in like essentially medical grade basically it's all around personalization.
Yeah.
Personalized nutrition that is specific to you. So one is around like medical grade. Get your bloods done.
Yeah.
And then at the bottom it tells you how to eat, but they don't help you eat that way.
Yeah,
so why wouldn't the meal plan just give you what you want?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea.
That's 1. 2, practical kids. So like helping people with their children's nutrition for schools. That's built around what
That's a fantastic idea, man.
what they want. And the third one is around actually bespoke, accurate, proper macros that essentially is like the world's biggest delicatessen, like a big Subway sandwich station, right? I want it in this exact macros. Give me the numbers, I'll create all these things for you and I'll deliver them as like perfect, absolutely bang on precision nutrition. But 3 huge areas right there, all could grow, all could explode.
I think there's a lot of scope for it.
There's loads. I just have the limitation is 1, the ambition, and 2, the delivery mechanism for doing it. As in, the technical barriers to that are large, hence other people will be doing them. No one's doing either. No one's doing any of them.
Yeah.
So there's the 3. So if any other meal plans, that's what I'm doing.
Chris, thanks a lot for your time, and it's been a pleasure to have you on here.
That's wonderful.
And hopefully we can do a part 2 soon.
Absolutely. Part 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll get you a discount code for your listeners.
No, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.